I mean, I gave I gave SpaceX less than a 10% chance of succeeding at all, to be clear. In fact, I told people this. I said, look, we're probably going to fail, but we should give it a try, because if we don't, if there's not a new company that enters space, we will never be a truly spacefaring civilization. The other aerospace companies, they built good rockets and everything. They were simply not pursuing the technology that's necessary to make life multiplanetary, to make Star Trek, to make the exciting science futures that we've read about.
So there you have Elon Musk discussing SpaceX going public, and it has happened today. And I read several headlines that said that we now have our first trillionaire, and that's Taylor Riggs, everybody. Just kidding. Taylor Riggs, co-host of the Big Money Show on Fox Business. Taylor, you've probably been covering this leading up to this day, and Elon Musk now a trillionaire. Is that actually true?
Yes, it is on paper, right?
Sure.
And you can lose it all tomorrow, because you're never a trillionaire until you sell.
Yeah.
But I have so many thoughts on this. First of all, good for him. This is incredible. This is a South African immigrant who came here, did PayPal, invested every last dime of his 20 or whatever years ago into SpaceX. 2006, he's like thinking there's problems. 2008, this guy almost goes bankrupt. The company almost goes bankrupt. They're down to like the third launch. His final pennies in this. If this doesn't work, the whole thing goes belly up. And it works because there's incredible engineering. And this is the American dream. This is the story of only in America, only with the power of capitalism behind you, only because he was a small, nimble company. We had a employee number one on the program yesterday who said he came from a big space company and it was full of bureaucracy and no one was excited, and came to SpaceX where it was nimble and hard work and it was tough and they were sweating and there were tears, but they made this massive, big dream come true. And so I think we'll talk about the price in a minute, but what I want to celebrate today is capitalism, excitement, hope. There are reports that cafeteria workers didn't get paid a salary. They took shares in the company. And the janitor and the cafeteria workers are millionaires today.
That's so cool.
That's what I love about this. Yeah. And Elizabeth Warren wants to block the IPO because she thinks it's overvalued, because she doesn't want the cafeteria worker to become a millionaire, because then that cafeteria worker might believe in capitalism and won't believe in big government socialism and what she's peddling. So I love this story. Now, we could talk, is the shares overvalued or are they undervalued? It's a $2 trillion company. There's a lot of hope and dream. The prospectus says it's a lot about, frankly, rockets. The AI thing is going to be a big lift. They're behind in AI. Is it worth $170 a share? Is it worth $150? Is it worth $135? I don't know. I'm of the belief that everyone has to look and do their own due diligence and their own research. Typically, do these IPOs fall after they go public? Yes. Probably a year later, they generally underperform than where they do on IPO day. So I want to caution viewers, don't put your whole life savings into this one stock, because there's a lot of euphoria today. But I think overall, my takeaway is this was a really wonderful moment for capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's incredible. It's an incredible take. Taylor Riggs with us right now. I don't know how much in depth you can go on this, but SpaceX, like you said, a lot of people just think Elon Musk rockets. Is there more that's wrapped up in the SpaceX, the Space Exploration Technologies Corp that you can talk to us about?
Yeah, so here's the problem. SpaceX owns XAI, which is their AI chatbot, like their AI platform. Mm-hmm. They also own X, which you probably know as Twitter. I think they also own Solar City. So they're sort of like, people are calling this kind of like a hodgepodge of companies. But what he's done is paved the way for, I think, what the market's also betting in a couple years, he'll merge it with Tesla. So then SpaceX is now, if they take out Tesla, rockets to carry the data centers to power AI into space, which then will power xAI, his company, and then will power robotics, which is what Tesla's going to be in. So if you think about SpaceX as like this vertically integrated AI stack, I think that's what people are betting on. Now, are we having humanoid robots tomorrow? No, and that's right now Tesla. But I think SpaceX is going to be trying to figure out. Starlink is very successful, but the cash burn on going into space is going to be funding a lot of the AI build out that they're behind on.
Okay.
Here's an interesting point. They have a massive Colossus One data center. They're renting it out. Get this. $900 million a month to Google and $1.25 billion a month to Anthropic. So people are thinking, great. I mean, they're pulling in tons of money in monthly revenue just by renting out these data centers. But long term, if you want to compete with Google and you want to compete with Anthropic, you can't be renting out your data centers to your competitors.
Right.
You should be using the data for your own AI. So I think, again, short term, there's some good revenue issues. I think long term, people are still trying to figure out where does xAI figure out in this whole AI narrative when, frankly, like Grok is behind when you look at some of the other large language models that you and I probably use every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do use multiple ones because they're good at different things, and being able to implement them into. I know a lot of people are very apprehensive about it. Taylor, your opinion on it? If it's not going away, right?
No, and not when Anthropic and OpenAI are also both going to IPO this year with at least $1 trillion valuation.
Yeah, it's the
so
future.
I think people are trying to figure out. There's a lot of hope in SpaceX right now. But NVIDIA just came out and they said Marvell Technologies is the next $1 trillion company because they're part of sort of, again, the picks and shovels of how you make AI. Marvell was like a $250 billion company, but Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says it's the next trillion company. So I think everyone right now is just trying to figure out what are these companies worth? And there's a lot of this feels like .com 2000 bubble popping.
Mm-hmm.
I understand those fears, given we kind of all lived through that and it wasn't fun and the NASDAQ fell 80%. And I do not want to say this time is different because that's what gets us all into trouble. But if you think AI is real and there's real money and there's real profit, then it doesn't feel like the bubble could pop. Air could come out of the bubble, it could deflate a little, but I don't see this thing popping when these are things you and I use every single day. You just heard healthcare companies say that we're going to use AI to help speed up treatments for cancer. I'm going to a mammogram and they're asking me if I want to have AI look at it and do a second once over. So it can't be fake when you and I use it every day. So I think that's at least certainly what the bulls in the market and the optimism is around this technology.
I don't know if this is a smart question or a stupid question, Taylor, because I'm a little over my skis in this department, which is why we're so grateful to have you as a Fox Business expert, a co-host of the Big Money Show on here to kind of set me straight. But does it matter if we're looking at artificial intelligence in the future? People can make decisions about who's running these different, who's wearing the uniform for the AI race. If people look at who the heads of these different companies are, and if they trust one over the other, does investing in that, the person that you trust who's leading the charge on that, does that make a difference?
Absolutely. And that's absolutely not a dumb question. I think for a while, people were only invested in Tesla because of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
People were investing in that company. The numbers didn't look great, but they had hopes on an entrepreneur, a founder, a visionary, and they thought, well, I'm just going to bet on him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to AI, this is interesting because Anthropic has been, the latest valuation was $965 billion. It'll IPO probably this year. The CEO, Amade is his name. My coworker has pointed out in the past, called Trump a feudal warlord and has been really anti-Trump. And then you have OpenAI, Sam Altman, who's running that, who's trying to navigate as he's sort of fallen behind in the race as Anthropic has picked up. And so I think people, and I don't want to make this political, but I think people are trying to look at the visionaries of these companies and saying, who do I trust?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm using Google Gemini's thing, and I think, well, Google feels really biased one way or the other, then they're making their AI biased. And I remember when Google, a couple of years ago, we asked AI to produce an image of George Washington, and it was a black man.
Yeah.
And so I think some people are figuring out, well, if your company is super left or super right, I don't trust you. And so I think it absolutely makes sense, especially if you're in this market trying to figure out, I don't have a clear stream to profit yet, so I'm just going to invest on the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly that's the bet people are making on Elon Musk.
I'm so glad that wasn't a stupid question, Taylor.
There are zero stupid questions. We're all here learning together.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm kind of entering midlife where I'm paying attention to these things in a completely different way. But it does, to me, matter who you entrust with the responsibility to not just grow artificial intelligence, but potentially limit where they go with our artificial intelligence with something like this. And boy, I sure don't know the things that I don't know. And then you look at these very brilliant and equipped people to make some decisions for humanity, and it's consequential. So I appreciate you giving us that insight there. I do want to shift gears just real quick before we let you go, because I've got the SpaceX ticker up here, but I also have the crude oil ticker up here.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you a super novice question about crude oil as well, because I've got it up. I've got a 5-year window on crude oil. And, there is a lot of time in this 5-year span where it's at 84, 85 right now, 84, 85 right now, where it's been well above the point that it is here. But there's also quite some time, specifically during President Trump's tenure, where it's been quite below that mark. When we see progress, it really depends on the day and the flip of the coin, it feels like, when I'm trying to cover these stories, as to how close we are to peace with Iran. Can you explain to me, when we see crude at 84 and then maybe high 70s next week, that'd be nice, how quickly does that turn into lower per gallon in my Chrysler Pacifica while I'm trying to get my kids to their baseball games? How quickly does crude go down and my gas prices go down?
Yes. Faster than we thought. Diesel prices are down 10% in the last couple weeks. And you're starting to see that, where earlier this week, Larry Kudlow said half the states now have a 3 handle on gas instead of a 4. Because we were at like 98, 102, 116, and now we're back to 83 a barrel. So it won't happen overnight. And a lot of the gas stations, the nice thing is when there's gas stations on every corner, they don't want to be the one to raise too much, because then you know that you'll just go to the guy on the next corner. Mm-hmm. Now, they'll be slow to do that on the way down, because they're probably going to they've probably been losing some money. They're probably going to try to make up that money, not drop prices too quickly. But it'll come down faster than we think. I thought by the time we opened up the Strait of Hormuz, it would still take a couple months. But when the president came out and said that they've been sneaking out 100 million barrels of oil in the last month and not telling anyone, I couldn't figure out. I'm like, why isn't oil at 120? Mm-hmm. Why isn't crude at 150? I can't figure this out. Why are we at 85? Now we know why. Because they've been flooding the market with this secret stuff and just not telling us or telling Iran what they were doing. Man. So as long as they keep doing that, and again, we've heard deals, news today that there's a deal, and we've heard that before, so we'll see. But the market is responding and thinking this thing is more open than we thought it was. And even if Iran says the strait's closed, the U.S. is sneaking out oil, non-Iranian oil, and getting it out to the market.
So then, Taylor, if that's been happening and the president has been helping make this possible through our advances leading up to this point, if hopefully when this never been closer to a deal actually turns into a public deal, and then I don't know, I guess it would have to stay that way because it could always go back, it feels like. Do you feel like President Trump says that oil is going to plummet and gas prices are going to plummet immediately? Is that an accurate depiction of what will happen? Sounds like
on the global market. I know it's a hard question. I don't think immediately.
Okay.
I think you'll respond. It depends on how much output we're getting again from Venezuela. You have the market will be flooded with a lot of crude the minute this thing opens. But then you have to look at demand. Like, is China going to be buying more oil because they've sort of been hoarding it and not been buying, and so they're easing the pressure? It all comes down to supply and demand. Yes, I do think that oil will come down. Is it going to 50 or 60 again? I don't know, but it could go to high 60s or 70s. Absolutely. If we're already at 83, it could easily go down into the 70s. And then price at the pump will come down as well. So again, that's not a good, clear, straight answer. I think here's how I'm thinking about this. Iran says we're going to screw you, American consumers, and shut this Strait of Hormuz. The longer they do that, they're making a bet that we're going to revolt and throw the president out in the midterms in the fall. But the longer they use the Strait as their one and only final chokehold, the more that the rest of the world long-term is figuring out how to never use the Strait of Hormuz again.
Yeah.
So they've closed this, and they make 20% of the world's oil goes through that route. But the longer that they hold this over our head, the more that we are talking to all of these other countries, and we're now the world's largest exporter because they know that they can't rely on them anymore. So I'm assuming 5 years from now, instead of 20% of the world's crude exports going through the Strait, that number might be 10% or 8%. Just like COVID, when we redid all of our supply chains, every business, every country, every company is saying, how do I avoid the Strait for the rest of my life? I don't want to do this again.
How consequential was it for us to go through the Venezuela ordeal to alleviate the pressures? I mean, that had to have been a thought, I would assume, in preceding what we're doing in Iran for that oil
Which is
purpose.
Why they did that first and Iran second.
Yeah, they're so smart.
It's to try to bring up Venezuelan oil as fast as they can before Iran would shut it down. And also, when we're doing capitalism versus communism, we try to bring Venezuela to our side, maybe Cuba to our side. China and Iran look increasingly alone.
Oh, this is a good Friday conversation, Taylor Riggs. I appreciate you being here with us. Real quick before we let you go, we'll ask you about the topic everyone's talking about. Do you follow the World Cup at all? You a soccer person?
Oh, my gosh, no. I'm an American. Do we care about soccer since when?
No.
I mean, I played soccer in high school.
We don't. But we're trying to find somebody who's in our world who's like super excited about it. What about Knicks?
I mean,
are you a
from,
Knicks fan?
The tourism perspective, it's awesome. The cheapy little hotels down the street from me in New York are sold out. They're going for hundreds of dollars a night. So it's a great economic boom, economic story.
You're good at your
I
job.
couldn't tell you one player on the U.S. team.
Yeah, I can't either. I don't know anything. I want them to do well, but I don't know. Like you said it better than I could. I'm an American who's playing baseball.
Football.
Yeah,
my version of football, not their version of football.
Oh, I love it. This has been a great conversation, but that was my favorite part of it. Taylor Riggs, thank you for being with us. I mean, go USA and all of that, but I guess a big day for Elon Musk and for capitalism, as you so aptly put it. Thank you for being with us today, Taylor.
Yes, amen to that.
Take care.
Have a good one.
You as well. Bye-bye.